Hello chess lovers, and welcome back to Nexus Chess Journey. In this video, I will explain a very interesting tutorial played between Bobby Fischer and Simon Krauser. This game took place in February 1990. Alright, let's get straight to the game. Here, Fischer is playing white and Krauser is playing black. The game starts with e4 and c5, then d4 and d5, a Caro-Kann defense opening. Next, the knight goes to c3, and after pawns capture pawns, the knight recaptures the pawn. The game continues with the bishop to f5, attacking the knight. The knight retreats to g3, counter-attacking the bishop. However, the bishop is left alone as the knight moves to g7. Wow, is this a sacrifice? Yes, because after Fischer captures the bishop, the next move is queen to a5 check, and the knight could block with the bishop, but Fischer forces with the queen. So there's no choice, and the queen captures the knight. This is indeed a very professional opening. The game continues with knight to f3. Now, the pawn advances to e6, opening a path for the bishop. But Fischer continues to develop his pieces with bishop to d3, simultaneously attacking the queen. After the queen moves, Fischer plays g4, attacking the pawn. Krauser responds with a short castle, but like he doesn't want to fall behind in development, Krauser also castles long. Now, I have a little tip for those of you who are still new to chess. If your opponent castles long like this, and both your bishops and queen are still on the board, you can place your bishop on the b8 diagonal, then prepare your queen on c3. This can develop into a queen capturing the pawn with check, leading to checkmate. This is known as Boden's mate, and I think this tip will be very useful for new players. But ideas like this are certainly very obvious for top-level players like Fischer. Fischer plays queen to a5 first, attacking the a7 pawn. If the king moves, the queen will capture the rook. To prevent that, the pawn moves to a6. And here's the difference, Fischer immediately sacrifices his bishop for the pawn. Wow, this is indeed a very bold move, or it takes super calculation to make such a move because we know that white only has the queen, while black is still well prepared for defense. But okay, after the pawn captures the bishop and Fischer recaptures with the queen, it's check. The king moves to c7, then the bishop is activated to d2, threatening a check on a5. So, to stop that, the rook moves to b8 first, but Fischer still plays bishop to e5 check, and after the king moves to d6, the knight moves to e5, attacking the queen and threatening f7 check with the rook. So, the knight is forced to capture the knight, and after being recaptured by the pawn, it's check again. Once again, the king must capture the pawn. From this bishop sacrifice earlier, Fischer is able to set up a combination of attacks that forces the king to be dragged into the center of the board. This is what I mean by high-level calculation because with this position, Fischer can continue the attack by playing bishop to c3 check. It's impossible for the king to move back because the rook will be able to enter d1. So the king moves to f5, shifting positions to seek protection. But it's still chased by the queen to d3, check. After the king moves to g5, now the rook joins with re1. The threat is clear, the rook will go to e5 for check, but at the same time, the bishop can also retreat to d2 for check. So, Krauser opts to move the knight to f6, reinforcing the king's defense. But still, the rook goes to e5, check. Actually, at this point, there is only one best move, the king must move to h6. Let me analyze this position first, so it's clearer. Here, if the king moves to h6, then the bishop will come down to d2 for check. After the pawn blocks the check, it will be captured by the rook, threatening the queen and discovering another check. Now, the queen can run wherever it wants, but it will certainly be caught by the rook, so it's better to surrender and let the queen capture the rook. After the bishop recaptures with check, the king must capture the bishop. Now, in this position, maybe you think black can still defend the game, but look again. After the pawn advances to h4, it's check. The king can't capture the pawn because it will be attacked by the pawns. If the king moves to h5, the queen will go to f3 for check. If the king moves to g6 to protect the knight, the queen will still play g3 check, forcing the king to f5. It's still chased with the queen going to g5 check. No matter where the king tries to run, the queen will continue to capture the knight while also threatening the rook. This is an example of how better position leads to winning. If black is careless and tries to save the rook can move to e1, forcing the king to d5. The queen moves to e5 check, and the king is forced to c4, ending the game with the rook going to e4 for checkmate. This is one variation if the king had moved to h6, where we can see that black's pieces would begin to fall apart, and if he made just a small mistake, it would have resulted in checkmate. Now, let's return to the game. Unfortunately, the second option chosen was the king to h4. Of course, a player like Fischer knows this position well, so the queen plays to g3 check, forcing the queen to capture the white queen. After the queen is captured back with the f-pawn, it's check again, forcing the king to g4 and ending with the rook moving to f4, checkmate. If you look closely, it may seem like black was playing like a beginner, because the king was vulnerable to such attacks. But you should also know, guys, if Fischer had made even a slight mistake, it could have been countered completely by black. Personally, I see that black was truly overwhelmed by white's relentless attacks, but hope still remained. So perhaps that's why he continued the game. Thank you for watching this amazing chess match. Share your thoughts about this game in the comments section. If you enjoyed this game and want to see more exciting chess matches, be sure to check out our previous videos. We look forward to seeing you in the next video, and remember to subscribe to Nexus Chess Journey for more chess content.